Okay, so in this section, I want to start exploring beliefs and values. And again, I want to do that from more of a developmental perspective. So, children, again, who grew up in healthy families typically achieve developmental milestones. And we know to notice these things about children. They begin walking, talking, they do things for themselves, they're able to tie their own shoes, they potty train. Those types of things I think we're very aware of in terms of child development. What we tend to be far less aware of is that development continues throughout the lifespan. Erickson is kind of my go to in understanding how we continue to face these challenges and developmental stages over the course of our lifetimes. And what I think about in terms of beliefs and values is the developmental stage of rebellion. So, one of the reasons why we tend to experience 13-year-olds as such especially angsty little creatures is because they've experienced a lot of brain development. Right around the time just after puberty, the human brain develops a capacity for things that it didn't have before, most notably abstract reasoning and critical thinking skills. So prior to, say, age 12, maybe age 13, a child learns in extraordinarily concrete ways. So whatever you teach the child, they will believe you without challenging it. So if the child is taught in this family we are Christians, or in this family we are Democrats, or whatever is presented to the child that is of an abstract nature. So again, abstract is something that you just can't pick up and carry around with you. It's a set of ideas. So, philosophy, morality, religiosity, politics, all of those things are abstract in nature. So, what happens developmentally for the 13-year-old is she wakes up one day and, on a almost purely subconscious level, realizes that what she has been taught is something that she never chose for herself. It was simply something that was taught to her, and she accepted it as though it were the only available truth. So as we go through our adolescent years, we're able to challenge things that were taught to us. We're able to choose for ourselves what it is that we believe and value. But rebellion is really the key process by which that begins. And for a lot of us, if we grew up in unhealthy families or families that were otherwise not conducive to getting our developmental needs met, we never really rebelled, or we rebelled silently, or we rebelled in a way that didn't really allow us to do what is the most important aspect of rebellion, which is beginning to establish an identity as an individual as opposed to being part of a family. So, for a lot of us, our development was arrested by using substances or arrested by trauma. And so, one of the challenges for us at our current age is to examine our beliefs and values, and are these the ones that we want to keep? I'm sure a lot of them are, but maybe some of them need to change. Maybe some of them we've never really looked at. We can then look at our lifestyles and our choices, and are those truly representative of our beliefs and values? It's amazing to me that we still have this idea in our culture that you should follow your heart. And I think that's synonymous with romantic comedies. I think following your heart, if that means having passion and a strong sense of purpose in your life, that's beautiful. But if you're like me, your heart lies to you. And uh, as my friends in AA say, the longest distance in the world is from here to here. So quite often what we know conflicts with what we feel. Quite often what we feel is something that we find to be unacceptable. We experience a lot of internal conflict. Quite often we avoid external conflict, which compounds everything. So just taking the opportunity to look at what is important to me. I always say, show me how a person spends their time and their money, and I will tell you what they value. In the short term, I'm not meaning to imply that you should decide whether or not you believe in God or whether or not you're a Democrat. What I would sooner say is that it is vital that you believe in yourself, and at least in your capacity to change, to become healthier, to become the individual that you wish to be. I don't often try to have any influence on what a person believes, except that I very much, when I work with folks, I want very much for them to believe in themselves. And so I will highlight or point out things about them that I appreciate, that I see as valuable. And ideally, they're able to receive that. But for a lot of us, man, we just can't take a compliment to save our lives. It's too uncomfortable. It's too inconsistent with our understanding of self. People like me will kill ourselves to earn praise, recognition, validation, promotions, and then quite often when they're offered to us, we find it too uncomfortable to accept and we deflect. We push those things away. We do this instantly, we do it subconsciously. It is not something that we think through, it is simply a habit. And so, quite often, when we really examine how we relate to ourselves and others, how we live our lives, and how we do the things that we do, without really intending to, what we're really doing is fighting to maintain status quo. We're comfortable with what's familiar. We have a sense of security in things being predictable, and so we tend to stay the same. The truth is, people don't change very much. Or at least they don't change their personality, their character, they don't change how they live their very lives. I think for the most part, only those of us who believe that it is necessary, and perhaps some rare individuals who see a great opportunity in it, will make those investments. I encourage folks to look at very basic beliefs. So, for example, what do you believe in terms of allowing others to help you? Is that something that is acceptable to you? Is that something that is desirable to you? Or do you have a sense that you're supposed to be completely independent and self-sufficient? I like challenging those notions. What I've learned is allowing people to help me, first of all, feels good to them. It may be uncomfortable for me, but people like to share their experience, strength, and hope. They like to share their wisdom and their talents. And so when I allow others to support me, I have to keep at the forefront of my thoughts that they get to feel good about that. If I'm unintentionally self-centered, what I'll think about is how uncomfortable I am receiving that, or how this doesn't fit with the expectations I have of myself, and I will end up pushing away the very people that want to help me. I think when it comes to things like choosing your identity, your character, all the different components about that, deep down, most of us are afraid, what if I get it wrong? I think that's especially true when it comes to matters of faith or spirituality. I think deep down, most of us are convinced that if you choose wrong, you end up in some kind of hell. Well, that was a choice for me in terms of my beliefs and values. I'm a very spiritual person. I don't subscribe to any religiosity. And consequently, I don't really believe in hell. Now, that's just a personal choice. I see hell as a place where people, especially children, suffer alone. And so I know that I love the expression my friends in AA use, which is religion is for people who are afraid to go to hell, and spirituality is for those of us who have already been there. So choosing my beliefs and values does take a lot of courage, and there's a lot of discomfort in that. But again, what I really want you to focus on in the short term is belief in your ability to change. And my experience is the more that you allow people to help you, the more you do small new habits like accept the damn compliment. When somebody says something nice to you, don't swat it away. Notice it, smile, say thank you, move on with your life. Don't question their motives. Don't say to yourself, well, if they only knew me, they wouldn't like me. Just take the compliment. Later on, and this is the biggest piece of advice that I always give, listen to your gut. Maybe that person had ulterior motives, but maybe they're a sincere and genuine person that meant what they said, and maybe you should hold on to the praise and recognition and validation that you're offered, because that all by itself will change you. If you find yourself pushing away those kind things, then what you're doing is staying with the feeling of self that you have, staying with the truth about yourself that you have. And so if you want to change that, you have to be open to outside input. It's true, sometimes others have ulterior motives, sometimes they're superficial or insincere. The only really effective way that I have found to make that determination is based purely on intuition. I have to go with my gut, not overthink it, not allow the discomfort of my heart to push that away. Don't overthink. Don't analyze. Keep things very simple. That's how they're amenable to change. My experience is that the more we internalize our successes, the more we internalize positive truths that are offered to us, we gradually build confidence. Building confidence will be an enormous benefit to your sense of identity, to your sense of self and self-acceptance. The value of that can't be overstated. I want to encourage folks to build faith. I always say faith in self. I always say that confidence can only come from doing it. Faith is noticing that you have faced fears and you have overcome hardships. You have done things that you weren't sure you could do. And so with each new challenge, you deserve to have faith. I did all those other things. I bet I can do this one too. William James said that faith is a bet you can't lose. If I choose to invest in myself and if I choose to have a better health, better quality of life, to live a more purposeful and passionate life, there's no downside. There's no loss there. There's no something that could go wrong. I need love and support. I need to take a lot of responsibility. But ultimately, what do you got to win? What have you got to gain? What have you got to lose? Honestly, I've never seen anyone lose anything from this process. I've seen enormous gains. And so I hope that you'll make that investment, and I hope that you'll continue to seek opportunities to become more of who you most want to be.